Hello, ladies, and welcome to the sexy side of menopause. I am Beverly Whitlow, your host, and I have an amazing guest with us today. And she's become someone I have been following in the shadows, but we actually were working in a mastermind group together, and I just watched her and I'm like, she's doing some amazing things. And we are both aligned with helping you be the best version of yourself. So I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Rhonda Beckwith. Rhonda, thank you so much for being here. I'm just so grateful that you can show up because you are doing it all. Working, you have a business, you're a professional woman in the space of doing therapy. So introduce yourself to everyone, please.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Beverly, for inviting me as your guest today. I am very honored that you selected me out of so many people that you had the opportunity of selecting, and I am really glad to be here. My name is Dr. Rhonda Beckwith. I am originally from San Bernardino, California, and now I am residing in Maryland. And I just try to live each day to the fullest. And as Beverly has already said, I am working, but that's one job. But the job that I do that I really, really love is working as a licensed therapist. And it's rewarding, it's fulfilling, but at the same time, it's tough because there are so many people that come from so many places, so many spaces. And I like to say that everyone has a story, some worse than others. But at the same time, we all have the opportunity to recover. And that's the part that I really, truly enjoy. And so I'm, again, glad to be here with you, Beverly.
Oh, thank you so much. You are so right when you say everyone has a story. I think Oprah Winfrey did a series many, many years ago about going to different places and talking about the stories that especially those of a certain age have so we can pass down this wisdom to other generations. So that's one of the things that I do here on the sexy side of menopause. I am here to have a conversation around the menopause journey, and that conversation incorporates women that I know in all walks of life. I've been fortunate to be in some very high level mastermind groups and met women on this journey who are doing such phenomenal things in their life. And you are one of those women. So let's talk a little bit about menopause and the stories that women kind of have around menopause, because I'm sure that comes up a lot, being that you're working in the area of therapy.
Absolutely. It's interesting that yesterday I was in a session with someone, and that person was talking about some of their dreams, aspirations, and goals. And one of the goals that they had, surprisingly enough, was trying to start a class or a course or something along those lines to educate women in their 30s, in their 40s about menopause, because sometimes people hit
Bravo, bravo. Yes, we need to
they
have
hit the
that conversation
perimenopausal
even at
stage,
30.
yes,
Yes.
and do not know what to expect because they've heard the horror stories. But does it have to be that bad? And so here we are now. I'm talking to you, Beverly, and you're talking about the sexy side of it. So really, I just want to know what the sexy part is, because every last one of us, again, experience something different. And so for me, being on the clinical side, I look at it like this: mindset. What do we think about it? What do we know about it? And then how do we embrace it? Because regardless of how we embrace it, it's going to happen in one form or another. So,
Yes. I love that so much. One of the things that I realized for myself, I am a woman that is stepping into this elder position. So I feel a level of responsibility to share what I know. And the platform, like the sexy side of menopause, coaching with women, speaking, I get an opportunity to talk about my experience of menopause, other women that I've had conversations regarding menopause, and then also bring in some reality of what menopause journey is like. Because if you have one person that you saw go through menopause and it was horrific, you was thinking, oh my God, this is going to happen to me.
yeah.
And it's different from woman to woman. And you were talking about this lady that you were having this conversation with, who's interested in having these conversations too. This is what we're missing now. This is what's so needed, that we galvanize and have conversations in community to bring other women into the conversation and enlighten and share and educate to those who are younger. I know sometimes I'm in spaces and I'm talking to 30-year-olds and 40 years old, and sometimes they're like receptive, like, oh, I think my mom's going through that. And in my
Mm-hmm.
mind, I'm thinking, baby, you just don't even realize your body is biologically changing. And you might not feel the effects now, but it is happening to you
Yeah.
right
In
now.
one way, shape, form, or fashion, and you don't know because again, you get people that go through the perimenopausal stage where you get some symptoms of something different. You
Yes.
don't know what it is, you don't know what to call it, and then those symptoms can go away and
Mhm.
then come back another day. And that's the mystery of it all in terms of that journey. So I'm just interested in really continuing to learn
Yeah.
how to embrace that. I have a daughter, and of course, I will be giving her my scoop, but then she may not experience that what I'm experiencing. But at the same time, at least she will have some working knowledge in terms of it not being the end of the world.
Well, kudos for you having this conversation with your daughter. So let's visit that because I think many women of my generation, we didn't have these conversations with our mothers.
No,
It was
I
like a
certainly didn't.
whisper amongst women of a certain age, but the younger generation was not a part of that conversation. So you're having that. So let's talk about what you're providing to embrace your daughter and understanding this time and talk about like what your experience is like going through this menopause journey.
Well, one thing that you just said was absolutely correct. We did not have this conversation. I remember my aunts and my mother all kind of gathering together and doing the whisper part and or this piece. And I had another aunt who said, whew, child, it's my own personal private summer. And as a child, you're sitting there thinking, private summer, it's summertime outside. Everybody's kind of hot, but not realizing that was a separate thing going on. So right now with my daughter, she does know that every now and again, I mean, everyone doesn't get hot flashes. I had hot flashes. They stopped. They came back. Now that they're back, fortunately they're not as bad as they were before, i.e. I'm able to at least get sleep at night because before it was wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off with the sheet. But I guess the good part is that I don't waste as much electricity with the heater on. But for her, I do let her know that it is a process of life and we all go through developmental stages. And so if you think about, you look at a baby does not, is not born walking, a baby is not born talking. So it's just stages and phases of life that we go through. And as we go through them, counting your blessings that you're able to get that far, because there's some people who don't make it there. So I look at it as every day as a blessing because we get to experience something new and something different. And if we approach it from a negative standpoint of view, what's going to change? It's still going to happen regardless. So then how could we look at this in a positive manner as opposed to something that's negative? And the positive piece of it is I've made it this far and I'm just going through and I'm continuing to go through. And, just reminding her just to do self checks. How am I aligning with my body? What is different from me? What am I feeling? What is going on mentally as well as physically? And so those are things that we constantly talk about in terms of just making sure that you know who you are and what it is that you're experiencing. Because I could tell her this is going to happen this way,
Yeah.
but everybody gets something different. We may get some of the same things or some of the similar things, but everyone has their own story and their own journey of menopause.
That is so beautiful because the way you share that with her, that is going to have a perspective that she will move as she's journeying into her menopause life. If you had somebody to just bring you terrible perspective and they're basically the mindset is part of it, but if you have someone to bring you a perspective that is positive and uplifting and you can lean into it, and just knowing that yours doesn't have to be identical, but you have the ability to make it to have an outcome that you want. I was thinking back to a woman that I spoke with. She is a doctor, Ayurvedic doctor, and she had a platform and she talked about menopause and she had a tagline. It's just like, I don't want to get it skewed, but it's just like menopause is a definite, but the way you go through it is optional. Like everybody
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to have the exact same experience. So that's a good takeaway that I think you're sharing with your daughter. And the
Absolutely.
fact that she's getting it from you and she's not seeing you do the whispers and do the fanning, like you're being open and having this conversation. So, how do you think she's receiving it?
Well, from her perspective, she said, "Oh, is this something else that I have to go through? I thought this was going to be over after this part." No, because we are continuously ever evolving. And as we are developing, different things happen. And unfortunately or fortunately, this is just one of the phases. And I don't give her that bad side. I every now and again I'll say, "Whew, oh my gosh, I'm very uncomfortable." However, again, well, you know what? What do you do to make yourself comfortable? And so I like to tell her I take those deep breaths and just realize that this is a wave and the wave will be over shortly.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I love the way you shared it with her. Do you give her any examples of what you're doing to navigate it? Like, is there something you do with your mindset? Is there something that you're doing with your diet? Is there something that you share about movement? I think you have this lens as a therapist, so you have that in your toolbox as well.
But just from removing the therapist hat and putting on the mommy hat, I usually just explain to her that's why I do not really indulge in any alcoholic type beverages. And you find out what brings on more of those symptoms than
Yes.
not. And definitely caffeine. That is one of the ones that I know is a negative for me as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I stay away from those. I try to eat those green leafy vegetables. I try to still just exercise and do the things that I need to do for me. And the biggest thing for me is making sure that I'm getting plenty of sleep and drinking plenty of water. Those things help. But in the moment of a flash, I try to focus on something else. And then next thing you know, again, that flash is over, but it's going to come back. And I try to be really cool and sometimes really cute and just kind of dab my forehead just a little bit and smile. And next thing
Listen,
you know, it's
listen.
over. Yeah, just a little glistening. And we just keep moving
Yeah,
because if I'm in the middle of doing a briefing or in the middle of doing a teaching, I don't want to be so obvious that something is going on. So it's just usually,
yeah, yeah,
and you just learn how to then understand your body, understand what is going on for you, and then what is it that you want to do to not bring so much attention to that moment. But probably everyone in that room, if they haven't already gone through it, they
yeah,
will. And if it's a man, he probably knows someone who's gone through it as well. So it's
yeah.
just something that is a natural occurring event. And again, some more severe, some less severe, but still a naturally occurring event.
Well, that is really good. One of the things I want to ask you was that because you're in an environment where you're working with other people in the same line of work, is there conversations that are taking place in your clinic or department where menopause is discussed? The reason why I ask you this is that I have quite a few women that are in Europe, and we've been in this conversation for many, many years. I started it in 2017 when it was a whisper. It became a thing the past few years because the celebrities have jumped on board and started talking about it. But over in Europe, they take a proactive approach. They're having conversations with their upper management, talking about menopause, having leave for menopause, having a lot more awareness drawn to the conversation and not shying away from it. So, how does that show up in your space?
Well, in my workspace, it doesn't really show up because I happen to be the most matured person in there, i.e., the eldest one in there. And therefore, we don't really have those type of conversations, which
Mm-hmm.
is really a darn shame. Now, we will talk about some differences and changing of ourselves where we talk about the exercise and the eating right and those things. But as far as the menopausal piece of it, we don't talk about that at all usually. Now, there is one young lady that's in there that's, starting to experience some changes. And so she's brought up certain things. And I just said, well, just get prepared for more changes to come. And as the changes come, just start writing those things down and seeing if there's a pattern.
Yeah.
And if you start to notice a pattern, then that could mean that, you are in that perimenopausal stage, not to curse you, not to call those things that be not as though they were,
Yes, yeah, that is my line. I love that scripture. Yes, yes,
but
absolutely.
just to make sure that you are aware of what is actually going on and it's something different than what you've had before. And that's about the only type of conversations that we have about it. Is sometimes when you're working in the federal buildings, there's certain conversations that you tend to shy
Right,
away from just
right,
because you're in the workspace that you're in.
right.
Well,
March 8th is International Women's Day, and I've worked in government environments for over 20 years, so I do understand that lingo. But I do know that they do recognize certain things, like the White House was colored with all of the colors of the rainbows. Like they take a stance on some things. But I think it's time for us to have more of a conversation when we have the opportunity on certain days. So if International Women's Day is March 8th, that's a good opportunity to just talk about, things that women are going through and have that communicated maybe in a special health newsletter or something of that nature. But I think it's a good place for us to just start stepping up and putting the conversation out there. It's not that we're going around and trying to accost everybody about this
right.
topic,
Or promote
but just,
anything, but just
yeah,
awareness,
just
just awareness.
awareness, absolutely awareness. So being in an environment that you're in, I was just thinking, well, maybe they're much more proactive than anything that I've heard in the United States. So I like to move into mindset. So much of what you're saying literally is my platform as well, minus the doctoral. So I appreciate you bringing that to this conversation. But when I'm working with my clients, the first thing that I work on is the mindset. Like, how are you showing up? And this wasn't based on, oh, women's health and I need to be positive about, being the best version of myself. It was like, okay, being a woman of color living in the world the way it was, I always was working on being better as a individual. But then I went to college and got exposed to other tools and professional individuals in this space that were doing motivational speaking, personal development, and I just fell into this space and I absolutely loved it. So I have been in a mindset mode all of my life. And I feel like that's helped me substantially how I've moved through life. I've had so many horrific things that happen in my life, but if you look at my life outside looking in, you might think that there's a shift, something's happening, but I'm going to be looking at it at the lens like it's a glass half full or half empty. I'm always looking at it as being half full. So when menopause showed up for me, I didn't really understand what it was, and I started doing research, went to doctor and all that, and ended up with a certification, and then I was aware of what was happening. But I realized, you know what? This is up to me how I want this to show up. And I don't have any place that I've gone through menopause where it's just been the worst thing ever. And it's not to diminish what someone else might be going through, because there are things that are happening in your brain.
Right.
And some women, unfortunately, decide that their life isn't worth living. But understanding that if you can get the help that you need and focus on having the most positive mindset around moving through it, I think you can come out on the other side and be even better and have a life that you wouldn't have imagined. So, what are your thoughts around that?
I really do like that. And I do love what you're representing because it is very true that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes because of the experience that people have or because of the lack of knowledge, that could be the end of the world for so many people when it really doesn't have to be. And then it's like, how do you work through the worst parts of that to get to the better parts of that? And with what you're doing, I am sure that you are planting those seeds and allowing that positivity to sprout and to grow. And then hopefully they are also planting that seed somewhere else as well. That if they see another woman going through that, they're able to say, well, you know what? I've spoken to Beverly, and this is what I've gotten from her. And if what we're talking about right now doesn't help you, I would probably encourage you to speak to Beverly, who could probably assist you more with understanding, because that's what I think that it boils down to a lot of times, the lack of understanding. Yes, it's going to happen, but what do you know about it? What do
Right,
you understand? What is your knowledge base on it? And of course, you could go to the doctor, but the doctor will hustle bustle. Plus, a lot of times they will want to prescribe some medication and send you
right.
on your way. But what do you really still understand about it? Nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
So again, it's totally the mindset because there is that shift and change, and it could be that chemical imbalance that's really off balance. And so you
yeah,
want to just try to now make it even so that your balance is straight as opposed to being off. And
right.
so I think with what you're doing, that is helping with that balance. And then coming to me, perhaps if that is one of the focal things, which it usually isn't, it's
Yes.
usually something else. And then when we start getting down to the nitty gritty of things and down to the core, sometimes it is because menopause has started and I've got these things that are going on that are totally not no longer understandable.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you on that. You had a couple of things that you said that sparked something in my mind. One, I want to ask you, as you're in this space working with individuals who need help with therapy, do you feel like women who are in this window of being menopausal are in need of having some therapist sessions to help walk through what's happening in their mind? Or do you find like they've got other traumas that's going on and the menopause is not something that we needed to focus on?
I It's different for everyone. Like for example, the individual that I did speak with yesterday, menopause was her big thing, which was shocking because like I said, a lot of times I will get people that have anxiety, that have stressors, that have depression and those things, and menopause will pop up. But yesterday, that was one of her major focuses, that she feels that her chemical imbalance, etc., is all due to menopause and all due to her not understanding how her body really functions. And that's how we got on that subject. Other than that, sometimes people will skirt around it or say, whew, I feel like I'm going through the change. And I will ask, so in that going through the change, what is happening for you? What do you notice that's going on in your body? And so, again, getting back to understanding who you are and understanding how your body is functioning for you.
Okay.
So,
That's really good because I had a conversation with another therapist. She was a doctor as well. And she actually moved from being a practicing therapist to doing coaching exclusively. And she said one of the things that she realized that women, when they were showing up, a lot of what they were going through was related to them being in menopause. And it was really crazy because many women don't even understand menopause fully and are surprised when they were going through this adjustment of their hormones. Me, individually, that's kind of what happened to me. I didn't really know to call it menopause. I knew something was off. My indicator was I was getting on the scale. I'm kind of consistent on my weight. I'm just like off a few pounds here. I'm like, oh, what is that about? And then you notice it again, like, oh, what's going like, no, we got to figure
oh,
this out.
absolutely.
I am not going to close my eye to a few pounds that turn into 20 pounds that I can't handle. So that's what helped me. But in your space, I was just curious because of what this other therapist had told me, like women just were not aware.
But you have to really kind of look at the demographics as well. So if you get a woman who says that, I feel like I'm losing my mind, and yeah, I used to be able to remember this, or I used to be able to do this, and now it seems like I'm all over the place.
Yeah,
I don't know, do I have ADD? Going through that. And then once going through some of the questions and some of those thoughts on that, depending again, ages and stages,
yeah,
then you're able to then circle the wagon back around to maybe then coming back to, that's probably symptoms and signs of menopause, not
very
you losing
good.
your mind, which then calms people down to a point where they can start to embrace information a little bit better, because that one piece of I'm losing my mind or people are calling me crazy, that's out the window now, because now I have a cause or a
That's
reason.
something that you can point it to. That is so awesome because it's getting better. But I know when I had my visit to my doctor's office, it's just like menopause never came into the conversation. I'm like, hey, something's off here, this and that. And it's just like, oh, I got a prescription. What do you want a prescription for?
Precisely.
I'm like, I don't want a prescription. I want to know what is happening and I want to address this.
Yeah,
And
give
I
me the what's and the
realized that.
whys. Mm-hmm.
Go right ahead, jump in, talk to me.
Oh no, that's it. You just want to know why. What is going on? Why is this happening? What is happening? And how then do I work on reversing this, as opposed to let me write you out a prescription? No, because then you go back and you look at the long laundry list of the potentials of that
Side
prescription and like,
effects.
oh, wait a minute, hold up. That is not a good alternative. Trust me when I tell you that it's not. So how can I now do this holistically, naturally, But first of all, understanding it.
Mindset. I always try to lean into a holistic first line of defense for anything that's happening. And I think that's because of how I grew up, the time frame I grew up. I'm a baby boomer, so I had the opportunity to spend time with grandmothers and great grandmothers. And I remember them taking me out in the yard and telling me about the grass and taking me to the tree and talking about the barks and things that they were using from nature to make these remedies and tinctures. And that was where we were healed. That was where we were supported when something wasn't right in our bodies. The only time you ended up going to see somebody in a doctor's office was when you had sliced and diced something that grandma couldn't sew up.
Exactly. Exactly. That's how it was. And look at us. We are here to tell about it.
Exactly,
Some
exactly. And
of
I
us
am
wrote.
hormone free. I'm not taking anything. I've never taken anything. And the thought of taking something that's going to make me force something to happen when nature is so genius and smart that eventually everything will balance out if I give my body what she's asking for on that journey. And that's what's so important for me as I'm working with women on this hormone through their hormone shift is bringing in the conversations around detoxing. That's why I was asking you if you talk to your daughter about what you eat, because we eat so much garbage food and it's not by our own faults. The industry has put things in our
Absolutely.
foods that we're not even aware of that is causing these hormone disruptions in our bodies and making it much more difficult, especially for women on this menopause journey. So I do understand why some women who don't understand are like seeking, just give me something so I can stop this problem. But it actually will start to balance itself out if you bring in good nutrition, bring in vitamins and nutrients that our bodies need, because we cannot survive on junk at this stage of our lives. It's just,
Absolutely not. I wholeheartedly agree with you on that.
yeah, so that's a key takeaway for your daughter. And for me, detoxing was such a part of my life. I grew up in the church and my dad was a minister, and we had times of the year that we did fasting. So it was just naturally something that I did. But I realized as I got older, when you intentionally did detoxing or fasting, it's just like, to me, the weight dropped, you got clarity. It's just like, this is a reset. And this is just so perfect for women on this journey. And I find that the clients that I've worked with found amazing differences in just 5 days. They noticed that there was a difference. So that's one thing I just want to make sure that when you're having conversations in the space that you're in, to have women to definitely look at their diet, because it's just, oh, I call it criminal. Some of the things that's happening to our food supply. I love to
Oh,
travel,
absolutely.
and Europe
Absolutely.
is my favorite place, specifically Paris, and they don't allow these toxins in their food to the degree that we do in
So
the
you
United
like Paris. I like Germany. That was
Oh,
my favorite.
that's okay. So let's kind of bring in a little travels, because I talk about lifestyle, and then we will unfortunately be at our end. So yeah, I spent a year traveling, and 2 months. It's like a year ago now. I was living in Paris, and that was like my fifth trip. So that's my happy place. But the reason why I love Paris so much, it's a walkable city. You get out and you're into the museums and you're out in the gardens. It's just, life is calling you to be out, not sitting in a car in traffic, not sitting in a cubicle in an office. You are out looking
Right.
at beauty. It does something for the mindset. In addition to that, they have the most amazing food that's been done with such art and care, and there's not all of these unnecessary chemicals. And I am a pasta person, but I do not eat pasta in the United States. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of the Italian restaurants here are going out of business to change, and maybe the mom and pop Italian restaurants are still
The
in place.
authentic
But
ones. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
so when I'm over in Paris and I see like this place that I can get some pasta, I'm like, oh, let me have it, because I could eat pasta without having digestive problems, without feeling like I've been sitting with a,
What? With a
you know,
brick in your stomach?
it's so different, and it just blows my mind how I can go over there, eat anything I want, bread, like that's almost a no-no for me. And I can
Right,
go over
because
there
of
and
the
say yes to
preservatives here
everything.
versus
Yes.
the natural things there. And then having been over there for a year, you cannot cook or eat things and have, oh, I'm gonna go get leftovers. I'm gonna go get leftovers. No, no, no. they're not made for leftovers. Bread will not last because there's no preservatives in it.
Right.
Fruit,
Yes. Yes.
wonderful. So
Yes. Yes.
I am with you. You enjoyed Paris. I enjoyed Germany. I Fortunately I was in the military, so I was stationed in Germany for
Thank you
four
for your
years.
service.
So I was able to go to all these different countries, and that was the best experience of my entire life. And then living in Croatia for 6 months, and then being able to go to Austria, going to Slovenia, going to countries that some people only read about. And I just
Yes.
enjoyed it to the fullest. And the food in all the different places. I mean, I think about Hungarian goulash here versus there. It
Yes.
was delicious. And I don't know, there is to me not a price tag on the type of food that you can get in Europe. I haven't
Yeah.
been to the Pacific yet. That's next on my bucket list to go.
Okay.
And I do plan on going and just enjoying that as well, because I do have a palate that loves a variation of different foods, and I'm not afraid to taste any of it.
Yes.
I may
Yes.
not taste it again, but I am not afraid to
You
taste it
tried it
at
one
least
time.
once. Absolutely.
Well, that's another part of my business is lifestyle. And I feel like when you're in this menopausal stage, you're probably moving to the space where you're close to retirement, probably empty nesting. A lot of women have had changes in relationships, so life allows them to be a lot more free. And I'm seeing women travel solo in women groups. They're getting out there and living life. So you talked about so many places that you've traveled. I used to have this big map. I used to work for the State Department. We had this big map of the world, and it was in regions. I would put pins, and if I've spent about 40 years of my life traveling. So I've done a lot of traveling, and I'm like you. There's like I'll try just about anything once just to say I've done it.
That's it, just one.
But I think the bigger picture in this, when you're trying these different foods, is like you get to bring in different herbs and different spices and different flavors. And when it came to my grandmother using these herbs and spices, they were healing. Like I know
Absolutely.
people that are from Jamaica, they like their grandmothers bring things into the food because it was healing. So when you eat these foods from around the world, they've got things in it that help you to be healthy. So I
Right.
haven't been to Germany. It was like, that's cold. There was crystal on my mind. Maybe I'll go for crystal, but me and cold, I'm in a DC area like you are. So it's just like, this
Yes.
snow has been a lot. So Germany, I do hear that there's like a lot of great foods once you get to traveling around. So I'm glad you had this
Absolutely.
experience and have shared with the women that you've gotten around and encouraged them to get out, live your life, see your world. This is part of the sexy side of menopause. We have this amazing life ahead of us,
Yes,
ladies.
we
So
do.
I want to encourage you to lean all in. So, Dr. Rhonda, it has been
I'm
so
leaning in.
amazing to have the conversation. I feel like I was talking to my girlfriend. It's just like we have so
Right.
many things that are aligned when it comes to this topic. So, if you would let the ladies know how they can reach you, and if you have anything that they can check you out on the website. I know these podcasts, they last to eternity, but we have places that people can pop in and see what we have going on.
Well, you can Google me, Rhonda J. Beckwith, and also I am on LinkedIn. I am also on Facebook and TikTok, so you can reach out to me, Rhonda Beckwith. I think there's only one of me, Rhonda J. Beckwith. There's only one of me. And then, of course, if you know anyone that's having any difficulties monitoring their self-esteem or their confidence, please go out on Google. I have written a book called A Comprehensive Guide to Elevating Self-Esteem from Authenticity to Resilience. Please go and check that out. There's at the end of each of the books, at the end of each of the chapters, there is a place to write down your thoughts, your feelings, questions, answers, etc. So it is involving you to do a little bit of work, which means you'll get a better understanding of yourself and your soul. I thank you, Beverly, for having me today. This has been beautiful. I enjoyed it. And for the women that are out there, look at Beverly. She's beautiful. She's smiling. That tells you already she is probably living her best life. And
Oh, yes.
what better way to do it? Living and not just existing.
Oh,
So
that
thank you,
is so
Beverly.
beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cleo.
Ladies, that concludes this episode. I'm Beverly with Beverly Hills Health and Wellness Coaching. I'm a certified health coach, and I help women just like you to break through the stigma of menopause and lean into a most amazing life on this journey. So take care, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks a
Bye
lot,
bye.
Dr. Rhonda.
Thank you as well, Beverly. That was beautiful.